Radio Rahim here with DiBella, gracing us with your presence on the West Coast. Very Hollywood type event here. We're here for the Tapia film, a documentary about his life. First of all, tell me how you got involved with this project.
My producer, Eric Drath, who does my boxing series, is also an Emmy Award-winning documentarian. He did Assault in the Ring. And he saw this documentary. He said, this is more than a boxing documentary. You have to see it. He sent it to me in the middle of the night. I watched it. I was like blown away. Next morning, I had a meeting with 50 about something else. I brought it to his office. He watched the first 20 minutes. 50 had also lost his mother tragically, to murder. And I think that Johnny's story really resounded in him, and he thought it was incredibly emotional. He said, let's get behind this film. So that's how I got turned on to it. But this is really much more than a boxing film. It's a movie about tragedy and triumph, about demons and redemption, about the power of love, about the resiliency of the human spirit. It's a great movie. It's much more about than a boxing story. I'd love all your viewers and listeners and readers to hear it and see it at some point. It's going to be in probably other film festivals, but we're looking right now for a distribution deal, and I'm sure that this is going to be on a US TV pretty soon.
Now, you mentioned Assault in the Ring. This is another film that's going to be it's going to be a tearjerker.
It's a tearjerker, but it's also, there's a lot of laughs in it and smiles. I mean, Johnny was an incredibly colorful guy, and he lived an amazing life. I mean, his downs were really, really low. His ups were really, really high. And, his life ended so tragically, but not on a sad note. It ended really at a moment in his life where things were beginning to come together. And if you see the movie, you'll see that. So I think, yeah, it'll bring a tear to your eye. But if you're a boxing fan, it'll give you goosebumps. It'll make you laugh. It's an amazing movie about life. And you know what, bruh? I have an extra ticket for you to come in and see it.
You know what? I really appreciate that. I was going to be able to get in. I thanks a lot, Lou. I'm gonna enjoy that. Obviously, you're a promoter yourself. You deal with all different kind of personalities in this sport. You're on the East Coast, so a lot of these guys are coming from broken homes, hard stories. When you see a fighter coming up and they're coming out of such a challenging environment, how do you keep them on course so they don't go the way that Johnny went, at least on the negative side?
It's hard, man, because everybody, I don't care how successful or unsuccessful you are in life, how rich or poor you're born. Man, we all have ups and downs, and life's a roller coaster, and you never know what's going to hit you. I mean, today James Gandolfini died, 51 years old, a heart attack on vacation in Italy. I mean, you never know what life has puts in front of you. We're all going to get kicked in the ass at some point during our lives. Johnny had a lot of ups and downs. He had a lot of demons. I mean, his mother was murdered. I mean, he battled with depression and bipolar disorder, drug addiction, and cocaine. He says in the movie cocaine was his mistress, and he also gives a really strong message to kids, which is, one time's a mistake, twice is a habit, and don't get into hard drugs. Don't get into drugs at all. Don't destroy your body and respect yourself. But I you know what? All you can do, I think boxing is a sport that gives kids opportunity. I've said this a million times in a million different interviews. Rich kids don't fight for the most part. It's poor kids who fight, and usually they're fighting to escape something, escape poverty, escape jail, escape the drug business, escape the street game, escape gangs, escape all sorts of negative things. And there are an awful lot of saints and gyms. Johnny had people that stood behind him. He had his wife Teresa. Their story is a great love story, but he had other people in his corner, guys that encouraged him and helped him get through the pitfalls. And Johnny kept falling, but Johnny kept rising again. And the key to life is whenever it knocks you down, get up and dust yourself off and keep going forward.
Obviously Johnny's story is encased in the boxing world. That's what frames this story for us. A lot of people look back on the 80s, the heroes and champions of the 80s, and there are many tragic ends. There's not a lot of really great stories on the tail end of those careers. Now, in this current world of boxing, do you think that it's gotten better for fighters or worse?
I think it's harder for fighters in some ways to earn a living today. There are fewer guys making the big money. I mean, but that being said, it's never been easy for fighters, man. It's a hard way to earn a living, man. You're getting your ass kicked. You're getting beaten up. Generally, you don't come from families with wealth. Guys in the gym busting their rear end, getting hit for a living, putting out the effort it takes to be a fighter. Most of these guys are are really, you know, they're underdogs to start with. They're, like I said, they're poor kids. They don't tend to be rich kids. We're not a sport of the wealthy. We're a sport of the downtrodden. I mean, that's what's brought to sports so much character. That's why there are so many movies about boxing. That's why there are so many poignant stories. So, like, I don't know how much easier it is today. I mean, I think boxing's an awfully hard way to earn a living, and certainly the sport's not stronger on a whole today than it was a generation ago. So I really don't think it's any easier for fighters today.
And then lastly for you, Lou, you know, boxing is a tough way to make a living, but so is promoting, and damn sure producing is. As far as your experience, obviously you've had some other adventures outside the ring, but this is your first film, right?
No, I've done a few films before. I did a documentary called Magic Man about Paulie Malignaggi that was on Showtime for a while on Sky TV. I did a feature movie, Love Ranch, with Helen Mirren and Joe Pesci, that was about Oscar Bonavina's murder at the door of the Mustang Ranch. I've executive produced a movie called Viva Baseball, which won some awards. Dan Cloris did the movie. So I've been involved in other films. I was associate producer of The Fighter, starring Mark Wahlberg. So I've been involved and touched other films. I'm executive producer of this. My production company, BK Blue Productions, BK Brooklyn. BK Blue Productions is one of the producers of this film, and I'm an executive producer. So it's not my first effort in filmmaking, and my first touching of filmmaking, because I'm not the filmmaker. A really talented kid named Eddie Alcazar directed this film and is a filmmaker. But to be attached to a movie that I really believe in like this, it's really a pleasure.
You're
and a privilege.
Executive producer, right? Like
I'm executive producer, and my production company, BK Blue, is one of the production companies that produces it. So I have a sort of involvement on both ends with this, and it's been a great project to be involved with, because I really believe in this movie, and I think boxing fans are gonna love this movie. But like your mother, your girlfriend, the women you know, they're gonna love this movie too, because it's not a boxing movie. It's a movie about life. It's a movie about the ups and downs in life, and the power of love and the resiliency of the human spirit. It's a really heavy, deep, and emotionally touching film.
Lou, just for 1 minute, to compare being a producer and in this Hollywood business, it's cutthroat, you know, it's tough, to being a boxing promoter, which, you know, is one of the most cutthroat and tough businesses around.
I don't know, man. It's a tough playing field either way. I mean, filmmaking is a tough playing field, but to be honest with you, when you're at an event like this, the LA Film Festival, you have a documentary, you're putting it in competition, it's frankly a lot fairer of a playing field than boxing is, because boxing is just simply right now just an unfair playing field. It's an unfair playing field for promoters, it's an unfair playing field for managers and fighters. You know, it is what it is. But you know what? Like, I haven't chosen any business in my life that's been easy. You just got to keep persevering and do the best you can. And honestly, also, do what you're passionate about. If I didn't have a passion for boxing, I wouldn't be in it. But if I didn't have a passion for film, I wouldn't be in it. If I didn't have a passion for Tapia, for this story, for this particular movie, for this filmmaker, Eddie Alcazar, and for a movie that I think is much more about life than it is about boxing, then I wouldn't be doing it.
Thanks, Lou. You know, we really appreciate you bringing this story to the fans, to the public. Everybody needs to hear from Johnny Tapia.
You could tell me, and you could tell all the viewers what you think of it after you get a chance to see it.
I'll do exactly that. Radio Rahim with Lou DiBella.